All right, I was getting lots of questions on surface area and just students having a hard time with the homework. So what I figured I would do is I will walk you through this very first problem together, and then I'll help you set up the second problem, and then you'll have to finish it on your own, and then you can do the third problem all on your own. Okay? If at any time you feel like you might be getting the hang of this, you can either stop watching or just pause it and you can check to see if what you have is what I have. For surface area, you absolutely should be showing your work on some sort of piece of paper. Okay, I'm going to show you how to do it just like on a blank piece of paper, but if you have a lined paper, it should be just about the same thing. But make sure we're showing our work. This is a very hard skill to do in your head. So if that's what we are doing, that's probably where a lot of our mistakes are happening. All right, so let's start off. I'm going to do different colors for the different rectangles that we're doing. So let's start off with blue, and let's start off with like our left and right sides. Okay, so we have our left and right sides. Okay, these left and right sides are going to be rectangles, so we're going to use our formula base times height. Okay, our base of those rectangles is 5. Our height is 1. So we will take 5 times 1 to get 5 feet squared, because it's 5 feet times 1 feet. 5 times 1 is 5. Feet times feet is feet squared. Now notice how we have 2 rectangles that are the exact same size. All right, so I could do all that work again, do base times height, 5 times 1, 5 feet squared, and just make sure we add both those numbers at the end. Or since I know that I have 2 of them, I could just multiply that answer by 2 and just add 10 feet squared when we're finding that total surface area at the end. Okay, it's up to you how you want to do that, whatever makes more sense for you. All right, let's go to red. Let's do our front and back rectangles. Those are these little ones right here. Okay, so we have our front and back. These are both rectangles, so we have base times height for our formula. Our base of these rectangles right here is going to be 10. Our height is not labeled in our front rectangle, but it is labeled in our back rectangle. It is 1 foot. It's also the same height as the other side, because if it's a box, the height has to be the same all the way around. If we're doing the sides, they all have to match up. So 10 times 1 is 10 feet squared. Now remember, we have a front and a back. Right now we just have the area of the front. Okay, so we could do all that work again. Base times height, 10 times 1 is 10, and then just add all those numbers up at the end, or you can multiply them by 2 so that you have less numbers to add up at the end. 10 times 2 is 20 feet squared. So now we have the area of the front and the back rectangles. Okay. Last but not least, we have to do the top and bottom rectangles. Remember, we're finding the area of every single side of this shape and just adding them all up at the end. All right, I'm going to just draw in, oops, we want a different color. I'm just going to draw in our bottom rectangle. Okay. The top one you can see is the exact same, just right on top of it. It's just hard to draw those on top of each other. So I like doing the bottom one because both of the dimensions are labeled most of the time. Okay, so we have our top and bottom. They are both rectangles, so it's base times height. Our base of that bottom rectangle is 10. Our height is 5. 10 times 5 gives us 50 feet squared. Now again, we could go through that whole process again to find the area of the top, or you could just multiply it by 2 since we know that they are the same size since they are across from each other. We have 50 feet squared times 2, which gives us 100 feet squared. At this point, we want to add up those three circled numbers. Okay, so we have 10 plus 20, that's 30, plus 100 from over here is 130 feet squared. That means the surface area, or the area of every single side of the shape added up together, is 130 feet squared. Okay, and that's how we're doing surface area. Now, for exercise 7, if you feel like you want to try to set this problem up on your own, copy my outline for how to do that. I would highly suggest that. And then you can always resume the video to check to see if what you have matches what I have. Or if you're still feeling a little bit lost, it's okay to follow along with me, but just remember that for exercise number 8, you're going to be completely on your own. Okay, so make sure for exercise number 7, we're trying to do some of this on our own so that when we get to exercise number 8, you feel like you don't need my help as much. Okay, so for problem number 7, we're going to set it up the same exact way. So we have our left and right side that we're going to find the area of first. So I'm going to draw in the left and right side in blue, just like I did above, so we can visualize that. All right, we have our left and right sides. Notice how I am labeling which rectangles I'm finding the area of. It makes it super easy for you to follow along with your work and to know what you've done and what you haven't done yet. These are both rectangles, so we do base times height. Our base of that rectangle is 9, height 3. Remember, we have 2 rectangles that are of that same size, so we are going to multiply that by 2 at the end. Okay, again, I'm just setting you up for this problem. I'm not going to be walking you through it, so you have to finish that up on your own. Next, we did our front and our back in red. So we have our front rectangle and our back rectangle. We're going to label our work front and back. These are rectangles, so they're base times height. Remember, we're going to have 2 of them, so at the end we're going to want to multiply it by 2 or just add them up separately or twice. Okay, our base of the front and back rectangles are 6. Our height going straight up is not labeled in our front, but it is labeled in our back, and we know that they're the exact same. So it would be 3. Remember, we're going to have to multiply that answer by 2 or just add it up twice because we have a front and a back rectangle. Last but not least, we have our top and bottom. I like to draw on the bottom because, like I said, most of the time that is what is labeled, but the top is also right here, if you can see that. Okay, so we have our top and bottom. Our formula for a rectangle is base times height to find the area. Our base of that bottom rectangle is 6. Our height is 9. Remember, we're going to have the exact same thing on the top, so we are going to just multiply that by 2, or you could just add it twice when you're adding up all those sides. When we get those numbers, remember, we are going to add them all up to get our final answer. Okay, just for setting up our work, I will help you out with this next one. Remember, you're going to start with that left and right side. You'll give me that formula and then fill in those numbers. Then you will do your front and your back. You will give me that formula, fill in that numbers for the rectangles in the front and the back. Then you will do your top and your bottom. Write your formula, fill in the numbers. Okay, when you get done, make sure you're multiplying them by 2 or adding them in twice because there's a left and a right, a front and a back, a top and a bottom. Okay, and then adding up all of those numbers at the bottom to get your total surface area.